Everyone for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today's webinar is Lessons from a Construction Safety Trainer using CPWR web resources to enhance your instruction. My name is Jessica Bunton, and I am the CPWR host and tech support for these webinars. So before we get started, I'm just going to go over a couple things. First, if you're having any technical difficulties with either the web or the audio portion during the event, you can let me know. If you are logged in, you can just use your chat box and I'll see that throughout the webinar. If you are having trouble logging into the web portion, you can just respond to any of the emails you've received from WebEx. One went out about an hour ago as a reminder, so if you reply to that, I will receive that email. If you are having trouble hearing through your computer speakers, we recommend calling in and using your phone instead. That usually works a little bit better. The call-in information can be found in any of the emails you received or on your event info tab or quick start tab at the top left corner of your screen. We will take some time at the end of today's presentation to answer questions. You can enter your questions, however, at any time during the presentation into the Q&A box. And then we will do our best to answer them in the order in which they were received at the end. And finally, today's webinar will be recorded, and I will send out the recording and a PDF of the slides to anyone who registered, so you can review it or feel free to share with colleagues who were unable to attend. Right. Our presenter today is Dean Beaver. Dean is a lead instructor for CPWR's Hammer Hazardous Waste and Respiratory Protection Training Program. He has been in the construction industry since the 1960s when he worked as a helper for his father, who was a contractor in Las Vegas. Later, his family moved to Kennewick, Washington, where he joined the carpenters after high school in 1979 and worked on nuclear power plants until '84. He traveled working as a carpenter and then returned to Kennewick in 1990. At which point he began running a general contracting business. Then in '98, he went back to work as a journeyman carpenter, and in 2000, he began working at the Hanford DOE site. Soon after, in 2002, he began training for us, CPWR, and has been managing our HazSwapper training program in the years since. So a lot of experience here, and Dean, thank you for joining us today. With that, I will hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, Jessica. So good afternoon, everybody. As Jessica said, my name is Dean Beaver, and I'm a carpenter. So we have been teaching 8-hour hazardous waste courses for quite a while, and this module kind of evolved out of our year in review module. So I just thought I would share it with everybody. So CPWR has some great tools. So let's just start through the slideshow and we'll get where we need to be. Okay, so first of all, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with CPWR, but they do construction research and training, and I'm involved in their training program at Hammer and at the Hanford DOE site, and I manage their HazSwapper training program. So they do research, training, and also medical screening. So we're going to focus on the training piece of that. But the tools that we're going to use today came out of the research that they did. So here are some of the websites that we're going to promote, if you will. There's LCOSH, which is a great electronic library of construction, occupational safety, and health. There's some working with silica, hazard type stuff. There's choosing some hand tools. There's also some construction solutions for maybe some small contractors that need some help with tasks that they're not really familiar with to do them safely and effectively and within budget. So that's what we're going to do today. And let's see. So let's start out with DOE. So we follow all of the OSHA regulations along with 10 CFR 851. And 10 CFR 851 is specific to DOE contractors and subcontractors. In the past, they had a DOE order that told its contractors how to do work. Today, it's codified through 851. So a piece of that is the Integrated Safety Management System, which is a revolving process of planning and doing work and providing feedback. So in the slideshow, I provided that loop for you. So it's really designed, when we're designing work, to look at past practices so that we're not repeating accidents and exposures and incidents that would either harm employees or maybe cause some type of release that could harm the public. So it really is an effective system. So that's what sparked my my thought processes when I designed this module to be done in an 8-hour hazardous waste refresher. So we use it as a year in review. So let's go ahead and let's kind of start into that. So if I was going to do this in the classroom, I usually do it first thing in the morning because it kind of gets people thinking about what's going on site and maybe some of the things that have happened in the past year. So we've always done a year in review where one of the objectives is to discuss incidents that have happened on these students' particular work sites in the past year. So that's the first thing I ask my students to do. So typically I would have 4 or 5 tables with 4 to 6 students. I would ask them to discuss an incident that happened to them at work, or maybe something that they knew about, or it could even be a safety topic. You know, really, it could be broad at this point, but in my thought process is if it really gets students thinking about what happened, what they're doing, their scope of work, their hazards, and incidents that happen. So I give them approximately 10 minutes, and you can usually judge by the noise level in the room whether they've done or not. So students work in small groups to identify these situations. So after about 10 minutes, I would pull them back together. And I would review the ISMS process. So normally, when we plan work, we take our work scope of what we're going to do that day, and we look for hazards, and we evaluate those hazards. So what kind of exposures might we get, and so how can we protect ourselves, and so that all goes into our work planning. We also are supposed to be looking back at our lessons learned database, and Hanford has an extensive lessons learned database. So the goal is to look back at similar jobs, similar work scope involving similar hazards, and using that information to try to estimate or envision what kind of problems might we have with that work scope that day or that week. So that's how it's normally done. But today, since we've already talked about an incident, I asked them to use that incident, and after we review the websites, I asked them to kind of back into a pre-job, if you will. So instead of trying to guess what might happen and try to plan for all those contingencies, we already know what happened because they already discussed it. So we're going to ask them to go into some of CPWR's resources and find something that they could have used that day that would have eliminated that incident. So it's a good exercise in knowing what the hazard is, knowing what the problem is, and then getting them experience in some of the tools that CPWR has developed that help to keep us safe in the workplace. So I'm going to switch to CPWR's website. Now, I always put out a copy of the construction chart book And it's probably one of the best resources to take students to see maybe what their craft is and some of the injuries and illnesses that their craft might have encountered on the work site. And I understand there's a new volume coming out here in the near future, so really looking forward to that also. So I'm just going to pick something that I use. As I was reviewing this resource, I came across this.
Steve, sorry to interrupt, but don't forget you have to hit share my screen. We can't see what you're looking at yet.
Oh, so
up at the top left, file, edit, share. Under share, you can hit my screen.
Oh, there we go.
I want to see what you're looking at.
And monitor one. Sorry about that. Okay, so now can everybody see it?
Yes.
Awesome. So I am in the construction chart book. I just want to touch on one quick thing here because I thought this was really crazy in construction. So in the time period of 2008 to 2010, these graphs show us the number of fatalities for that occupation per 100,000 workers. Number one on the list were laborers, and 630 out of every 100,000 workers died in that time period, which is kind of sad. But so now we might need to look at what are those people doing and what kind of work they do, and maybe heighten some of that awareness. But really what blew me away was the second group of people on the list, which were foremen. And I really don't understand why foremen are dying in the workplace. Not only that, but down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, number 7 on the list is construction managers. For the life of me, I cannot figure out why construction managers are dying in the workplace. Just kind of something to throw out to the students. Could use this in the morning to heighten awareness. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go down to the tab on the bottom, the ribbon, and these are the resources that we really want to review. So, of course, CPWR does some medical screening, and the BT Med Screening Program does that for anybody that has illnesses they think are caused by exposures on DOE's weapon complex facilities. So that's really what that is. Choosing hand tools is another good resource. For those of us that use tools all day long, there's some really good stuff in here about how to choose a hand tool, what's my hand size, what size of handle do I need, and so on and so on and so on. So kind of eliminates some of the ergonomic issues that we have in construction. Could be one of the topics that the students talked about that day. Not only that, but choosing gloves properly, great, great resource. Okay. I asked them, feel free to go look around, put this on your mobile device, take it with you. Again, here's construction solutions. That's resources that would give small contractors some ideas about how to do work safely, effectively, and within their budget. So there's places in there to enter your task, and then CPWR's got some canned resources that are really good for helping people do that. The ROI calculator is for comparing either tools or equipment or engineering controls to find out the true cost. And I would advise people to go in there and watch the demonstration video. Really is a great tool today. We are really empowered. But mainly, I want to send them into LCOSH. So what's LCOSH? It is the Electronic Library of Construction, Occupational Safety, and Health. In this website are media presentations, pre-canned PowerPoints and presentations. There's images, there's videos, there's, in the document section, there's toolbox safety talks, there's training material, handouts, all kinds of research reports that we could use in a pre-job, or maybe some of our Monday morning back-to-work safety meetings, toolbox safety talks. So there's 3 ways that we can search in this tool. One of which is by hazards. So I picked a path through here, and CPWR has just upgraded this search engine within I think about the last year. So there were some difficulties in how the search engine ran, so I think they're working through those issues. But I'll try to give you a couple of tips today that might help you to navigate. So the first, I want to go into hazards. So let's say I'm working with epoxies. Hazards. So I'm going to go over here to epoxies, and I'm going to select that, and it's giving me 10 full pages of all of the research that the search engine thinks is pertinent to epoxies. I found that's a little difficult, and students will not go through those 10 pages. So to help define that search, in the search box, I just type in epoxy. And now it's narrowed my search. So there is, let's see, working with epoxy resins best practices. So I was having trouble with the link. So the title to each of these, the black title, is the link to whatever that tool is. In this case, it's a file. Let's see. It's a PDF file. This will be some training that you could take your workers through. 13 steps or 13 chapters in this training. So it gives a little advice on how to work with epoxies, curing. The main thing about epoxies is that it's a sensitizer, and the first time or first 10 times, maybe the first 100 times might not bother you. Eventually your body is going to become sensitized, and so on the side here, there's some more links. So there's some hazard alert cards, which are great to print off, maybe in a PDF file, hand them out to your crews to heighten awareness. Okay, so let me go back. So that's one path. That would be by hazard. Another way to search is by trade. So let's say I'm a carpenter, and maybe I'm building some scaffolding, and I'm waiting for the internet. So bear with me. And so now all of these databases there's some 91 pages full of stuff for carpenters. So let me type in scaffolding. So now we are looking at some toolbox safety talks, some hazard alert, scaffold tubes getting crushed. They sent out some inferior scaffold tubing, and when they put the clamps on it, it crushed it. So obviously the wall thickness on these tubes wasn't up to spec. All kinds of stuff in here. So the objective is to get the students out into this database and looking for something they could use in a pre-job. So the other way, so we've gone through hazards and we've gone through craft. Another way is by job site. So we're doing demolition at our site. Not sure it's going to come up with RAD. So we're not going to find much information in here about radiological hazards. We also have run into some issues. So LCOSH is designed for construction activities. It is really not designed for advice on cleanup sites, although there are some of the same activities we do on construction sites that are applicable to hazardous waste sites. So we got to do a little cross-referencing at that point. So at this point, I would turn the students loose and give them about 10 or maybe 15 minutes to look these things up. And at Hanford, we have the luxury of DOE funding some of our programs and providing iPads for students. So for them to be able to go out on CPWR's website is a real plus for us. And there's not only that, but there's multiple websites that are applicable to what we do in construction, from OSHA to NIOSH and the NIOSH Pocket Guide, the CDC, Emergency Response Guidebook, WISER. DuPont now has a chemical soup calculator called Safe Spec. And anybody wants information about how we use any of those, I actually have a PPE module where I send them out into that Safe Spec soup calculator. If anybody's interested, I'd be more than happy to share that with you. And then once the students are finished, after about 10 minutes, we would go table by table and review what was the hazard and what did you find in that database that you could have used that day to mitigate that hazard. And we've been doing this for the last couple of years, and it's been very effective. We've had some good feedback, and students are really enjoying it. I already had people coming back for their recycle training and telling me that they ran into some issues at work. They went into LCOSH, and they were able to find some stuff that they shared with the rest of their group. So that's a positive thing. So that brings me to the end of the presentation, and I'm going to turn that back over to Jessica, and I think she had some comments or some Q&A session. Was that right, Jessica?
Yes. Sorry, I was on mute. We have a couple comments about the search engine of trying radiation instead of radiological, and other suggestions for a better search. Let's see. And that is, you know, just something that just goes to show that with these search engines, there are a lot of hiccups, and it pays to sort of reword things and try different ways of searching. There was a question, if you're only searching for images, is there a shortcut using the new search engine?
So I've not had that experience just searching for images. Now, I know that some of the links on the right-hand side where it shows images, you may be able to click on that link, but for more information about how the search engine works, I'm going to send you to Bruce Lippy, because he's involved with the IT group, and they understand some of the issues that I brought to them. So really the best source of information would be Bruce. And also, Jessica, to answer that first question, not all search engines are the same. So depending on how they're designed, you may have to try a synonym or a similar hazard, or like they said, instead of radiological, just type in radiation. We have chemical vapor concerns. We have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of gallons of chemical radiologically contaminated stuff, and really there's nothing in there for that, but there is some general information about monitoring and chemical vapors, some generic type stuff.
Okay, the next question is, are any of the materials in Spanish?
You know, I've not looked for that, but I do know that when Don Ellenberger was director, he made it a point to make things available in Spanish. So I know most of the resources that we have are in Spanish. I'm just not sure that there's a translator for LCOSH. That would be a great tool, though. That's a great question.
LCOSH, I'm not sure about either, but I can say, because I run CPWR.com and I stopconstructionfalls.com, which is another resource we haven't covered today. And I know we try really hard to do as many materials as possible in Spanish, all of our toolbox talks and hazard alert cards, and pretty much most things that are on CPWR.com are also available in Spanish. LCOSH, though, has a obviously much larger number of resources. CPWR.com only has mostly our resources that came out of research. So, you know, we do our best. And then we are getting a comment that the LCOSH website is in Spanish, or at least has some Spanish resources. So, yeah, that's definitely something, and we're working on adding languages beyond Spanish as well for a lot of our resources. We've had requests for Polish, a lot of Polish, and I believe they're working on Russian and a couple other languages as well. So we're trying to do more and more of that, definitely. Scrolling up to the top, we did have one comment about the chart book. That it is important when you are comparing the numbers that often the rates are per 100,000 instead of just the raw numbers. So something to keep in mind when using the chart book and comparing that data. Okay, you can switch LCOSH to Spanish at the top right toolbar. So I think we closed out of it already, but for when you go to LCOSH, you should be able to, I guess, just, it's probably powered by Google Translate. You can just switch the whole website into Spanish. Okay, and it looks like, okay, we have someone who raised their hand. So, Michael, if you are there, I don't think that I can unmute you, so maybe you can write your question in the Q&A box.
So, Jessica, I'm seeing this in a lot of different languages, in Vietnamese, Italian, France, Portuguese.
Yes, there you go.
A lot of them available. One thing I would add, anybody that's going to use the construction chart book, either the book itself or to download the PowerPoint presentations, I always, always, always recommend that they go read the PDF file that goes with it. If you don't have the background information about comparing apples and apples, workers per 100,000 people, you're really going to be putting out wrong information. So as a trainer, you really got to do your background research, and it's all there. You just got to go read it.
And for the chart book, most of that data is based on BLS data, and it just looks at in a lot of different ways that they don't provide. So it really depends on what chart you're looking at, what page you're looking at, how the numbers are broken down. All right.
So Jessica, I'm having trouble getting back to that webinar screen again.
Up at the top, there should be a button that says Stop Sharing, and it'll just close you out and go back to the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? I think that was it.
Okay, for everybody, both of my email addresses are on the first slide. Feel free to email me about any information that you might think that would be useful that I might have for you. I'd be more than happy to share anything that we have. We've got some other stuff that we do in our 8-hour refresher that I would like to share with some people, maybe get with Gary. And I know we used to have a database that we could go and pull out plug-and-play modules for hazardous waste refresher. Hasn't been updated in a while because of other priorities, but I really think that a lot of trainers across the USA have some great stuff to share, and I'd like to see that myself. Kind of pushing Gary a little bit there. I'm sure he heard me.
All right. It looks like. All right, just a comment saying thank you. Well, thank you very much, Dean, for doing this and joining us today.
Thank you.
And as Dean said, feel free to contact him, or always feel free to contact me if you have any questions after the webinar. And I will, again, be sending out a recording after today's event. So thank you all for joining us.